get some more on that. We do apologize for that technical glitch there. Ekurhuleni municipality is, of course, in currently either a criminal challenge or a political challenge, if you like. And we are joined now by political analyst Rebone Ndou, as well as Dr. Lecy Ndou. Good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. Good afternoon, Dr. Ndou, as well. I mean, if you look at what we are dealing with here since January, is that the Ekurhuleni municipality would have been brought into what you call political instability, or a political maneuver, if you like. One, you are seeing here that the mayor decided to disrupt the coalition. There was a mayoral reshuffle that by many standards would have not properly consulted the coalition partners. Let's start there firstly. We'll get to the other issues. What do you think is behind that? Is the mayor trying to posture for the 2026 election? Is the mayor trying to reduce the influence of parties like the EFF within that coalition? Or is the mayor just merely trying to protect his own skin here, seeking minority support in case a motion of no confidence is put before him?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. I think when we look at the issue of Ekurhuleni, the municipality, we should not look at it at face value. And why I say this, I mean, if you check days building up to that reshuffling, I listened to one of the interviews that he did, and he spoke about doing an assessment, of the mayoral committee that he appointed after he came in as the mayor of Ekurhuleni, I think in 2024 in April, if I'm not wrong. And fair enough, which it's not common practice where a mayor would do an assessment, I mean, even our own president doesn't do an assessment of his own cabinet. And I think for me, that's moving towards the right direction, doing an assessment. But when you look at also that reshuffling, we are not talking about two names. We are more focusing on the politics because of how we've had the EFF, publicly speaking out against this reshuffling. There's two people in the main who were removed in that mayoral committee. The then mayor, during 2023, when the DA was removed, the AIC leader in council, who IDIP did mention, and the MMC of community safety around 2023, who's an ANC person, by the way, who were also implicated that they did not act on Mkonas when they were asked, when recommendations were made. And that, for me, that shows that assessment also is very important, because these two people, some of the things that have happened in Ekurhuleni could have been avoided, because the issue of Mkonas has always been on the table. I mean, if you check, for an example, the suspended HR, head of HR, who was recently at Madlanga, did mention also how the Mkonazi suspension was a no-go area. So why is it that officials get suspended, but politicians, nothing happens to them in most cases, So for me, it's good to do an assessment in terms of service delivery, because that municipality, it's bleeding. And if you want to improve services to the people, you will have to strengthen your own mayoral committee and after doing that assessment. So I think it's fortunate that we're just reacting to the reshuffling, not checking what was the build-up and what the mayor had been communicating, the importance of doing an assessment to see if there's any effectiveness, and those who are looking to see how to strengthen the mayoral committee to deliver to the people of Ekurhuleni.
Dr. Ndou, I mean, the mayor frames it as Rebone Ndou puts it. The mayor says the changes are as an effort to restore administrative integrity and address governance failures exposed during testimonies at the Madlanga Commission. Can we then say, well, mayor's doing a good thing here, or can we write it and bring it down to just, political posturing ahead of the 2026 local government elections?
Good afternoon, Thabo. Good afternoon, Rebone, and the viewers at home. Thank you for having me. When you find yourself in a position that the mayor of Ekurhuleni is finding himself in, you find yourself under a lot of pressure. And this pressure would not only come from opposition parties, and it will not only come from the people in the city. You'll have pressure that will also come from your own party, and the pressure that will also come influenced by the events that are unfolding surrounding you. And when we're in that position, we also need to be able to take decisions that sometimes would be seen to be harsh. The first thing that we need to acknowledge is the fact that the allocations of positions in the city of Ekurhuleni were not done proportional. And that in itself created a situation where others felt that there are certain parties that are being favored at the expense of other coalition partners. That's another factor. But the Madlanga Commission has exposed a lot of wrongdoings that will require anybody who is given a position of responsibility to act. And whether you like it or not, whatever action that you take might please others, and it might also be a decision that others will not be happy with. But in that position, you need to be able to take decisions. Yeah. Yes, it is true that we have got a coalition in the city of Ekurhuleni. You also need to make a determination whether you need to take a decision that is wrong because you want to please coalitions or because you want to please your own party. But in this case, having done all that the mayor could have done, and indeed which he has done, a decision had to be taken. Yeah. And unfortunately, it has its own implications.
But Ndou, one could say, I mean, he managed to do both. He upset the coalition, and by the looks of things, he also upset his party. If you look at the resignation of some rather senior members of the organization in the region.
Decisive leadership would require that even when other people would not agree with what you are doing, you need to do that in the best interest of good governance, in the interest of the citizens, and also follow your consciousness. And that's why I say he could have angered some within his party, some within the coalition, but because you are put in that position of being a leader, you need to sometimes take decisions that might not be favorable to the very same people that you serve. Yeah. That is what we should expect from leaders. But at the same time, a balance is required. And a balance is supposed to be created in ensuring that there is stability, there is governance, and ordinary citizens on the ground are happy. Yeah. But overall, we do know that our own establishment in South Africa of these coalitions, it's not built on a very strong foundation. And that is why those within your party and those that are outside your party would always want to find ways and means to take advantage of the situation and end up taking wrong decisions.
You've looked at that particular leadership resignation. I mean, you've got some strong words to say to Jongizizwe Hlabathi and why he would have jumped ship at this particular point. He's not the only one. Of course, Council Speaker Dora Mlambo also resigned. Others are saying, well, that shows a severe internal rift within the ANC's regional collective around this particular decision and whether or not the mayor consulted enough. But two, others are saying, well, this is just historical rivalries between these two.
I think we need to clarify the issue of Dora. Dora, yes, she was speaker. But you remember, after the mayoral committee needed 3 more people, after the Action SA and EFF refused that they're not coming on board, he had to appoint 3 other people. So Dora becomes one of the people that he appoints. So her resignation is because she can't be speaker and MMC at the same time. Right. So she's the MMC now. And so there was then a vacancy for now the speaker's position. But Dora is still in council and is an MMC of under the ANC-led coalition of smaller parties. Now, when you look at Jongizizwe, and I think what Dr. Ndou just said right now, the ANC in its nature, it becomes very disruptive at some point, you know, because you have a mayor who's very decisive, who's acting, because the whole country is looking at what has happened in Madlanga, and these things are really serious. I'll give you an example. One of the things that came out there which is an allegation of that you had Metro Police hijacking certain trucks. What does that do to our economy? You know, so now, Zizo, him resigning at this critical point, and the resignation is because they've asked him to go back to the regional office and be full-time as the secretary. Something which in the ANC, by the way, is Constitution Rule 1601. It says that, and it's linked to the Secretary General, that clause, right? That you are the Chief Executive Officer. That means you need to be full-time. That's why you've got Mbalwa full-time. So automatically, all the regional and provincial secretaries should be full-time. Yeah. And an exception was made for him to go to council, right, for whatever reason that was known. But if the party says, we want to redeploy you again, now to be full-time, it's election year, there's challenges on the ground, that really shows that this man is selfish. He's thinking about himself. But what I would want to say is that I think on Thursday, the ANC in Ekurhuleni had zonal meetings of all structures. And all structures have come out that they support the mayor as he's being decisive, as he's cleaning up the municipality. And they have accepted the resignation because they feel that this man is selfish. And their argument is that they supported him as the whole region because he was not contested at that conference. He came in uncontested. So most comrades within the ANC in Ekurhuleni are very angry at him, you know. So this might also mean that his political career at this point, there's going to be uncertainty what will happen at the next regional conference of the ANC.
Dr. Ndou, what do you make of that leadership resignation in the bigger scheme of ANC politics and what could actually be happening on the ground?
A lot of people have been angry and accused the ANC of being very lenient when it comes to corruption and wrongdoing. And when you are in a position of being a mayor in the city of Ekurhuleni, and there are a lot of revelations that are coming out from the Majanga Commission, all eyes are then set to be looking at you and on how you are going to provide leadership. And that is exactly the position that I've indicated earlier, that the mayor in Ekurhuleni has to find himself in. And he had to act in the interest of the party, in the interest of cleansing the name of the ANC in the public space. But number two, the ANC's work in terms of deployment and ensuring that there is a balance between the strength of the party inside and outside the council is something that has to be determined and discussed and negotiated by the members of the ANC themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's also very, very important, is supporting what Thabo is saying, that when you have a situation where you sense an element of personal interest at the expense of your party and the people that you serve, that becomes problematic. And there is no politician who would love to find him or herself in a situation where this person is labeled as someone who prioritizes personal gain at the expense of the party and the people. And it's an unfortunate situation that has happened in Ekurhuleni. And my sense is that with a number of public gatherings that the ANC has had in Ekurhuleni and the court cases, one would expect that Ekurhuleni should have learned from their past mistakes and start doing things better. But whether you like it or not, if you're in a leadership position in Ekurhuleni, this is a moment of decisive action. It's a moment of decisive leadership, and you need strong leaders who are able to take decisions, whether some people like those decisions or not.
Now, let's look at what happened on the 5th of March. I mean, the election of the new speaker didn't quite go as they would have liked it to go. What do you think was at play there?
Who wouldn't have liked it to go? I want to understand. Because
well, I mean, there was no speaker.
I mean, I think also what, in my analysis, I think in terms of when the mayor, right, was appointing Dora as an MMC, I think someone should have advised them of what are the implications, and this might lead to council sitting being disrupted, because then the arguments that were made, by councillors that are you a speaker or an MMC? So I think that from that technical point of view, that was the mistake that did someone, I think, did not advise maybe the mayor accordingly in terms of what are the rules once someone is appointed as an MMC. And I think, yes, the meeting was then adjourned, and we have seen they've elected a new speaker, and there was no hassle in that election.
All right. Let's turn to this now. The City of Ekurhuleni Council elected African Transformation Movement's John Sinona as its new speaker after a decisive vote that delivered a heavy blow to the EFF's Nkululeko Dunga. The position became vacant after Dora Mlambo resigned and was redeployed as MMC for Economic Infrastructure and Development. The election comes as the city faces instability and tensions over leadership squabbles. Veronica Makwadi takes a look.
Councillors delivered a decisive result on Thursday, electing ATM's John Sinona as Speaker in a vote widely seen as a test of the city's fragile coalition politics. Sinona secured 94 votes, comfortably defeating the EFF's Nkululeko Dunga, who managed 33. The outcome dealt a significant blow to the Red Berets, who have now lost the Speaker's race for the second time this year. In his acceptance speech, he pledged to protect the integrity of the council.
Fellow councillors, democracy will always involve robust debate, would always be differing in political view. That is the nature of the democratic governance. But our differences must never come at the expense of the dignity of this institution. As the Speaker, I commit to preside over this council with fairness, impartially, and firm adherence to the legislation and the standing orders that guide us.
Sinona, who is the ATM's only councillor in the chamber, takes the seat at a moment of deep governance strain in the city.
We must reverse, some of the, regress in terms of service delivery, some of the, governance issues, whether they are in Madlanga, whether there's ICT billing issues, which we've been battling with. We must really fix the revenue of the city. We must, do a lot more to assist to stimulate the economy, to create a conducive environment for, for business and industry to thrive.
And with only 8 months left in the current term, the pressure to stabilize the city is mounting.
It is about time that we take the people of Ekurhuleni boldly and ensure that the last remaining 8 months, we actually set the foundation for the for the leadership that is going to be elected. It's not about me. It's about what is it that we have done to fix some of the things that have happened in these 5 years where we have been in leadership. I've been given now an opportunity to lead 1 year and 8 months. And for the next 8 months is to make sure that we close all the gaps.
For the newly elected speaker, the challenges are immediate. Council must still pass the city's overdue adjusted budget. And the municipality also faces possible sanctions from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange after missing a deadline to submit audited financial statements. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Veronica Makwadi in Ekurhuleni.
Thanks, Veronica. Dr. Ndou, the mayor seems to be a little bit more buoyant and more confident, at least about his position for the next 8 months, having secured the minority party support. What do you make of that? Again, a strategic move by the mayor, decisive move by the mayor?
When you have the political leadership that is always thinking about pleasing colleagues because they want to stay in office for a longer period of time, then you have a challenge. You need to have a leadership that is prepared to take decisions irrespective of the repercussions. And that appears to be the stance that has been adopted by the mayor of Ekurhuleni. Of course, you would always be thinking about the collapse of services, about how you're going to be treated and perceived by other people. But when you're doing whatever you're doing in the best interest of your citizens, you would actually take bold decisions that might not satisfy all the people. But what appears to be the case is that negotiations in terms of leadership and the direction of the city appears to be constantly taking place, and they've got their own implications. And the negative implication is that leaders are not sure of what's going to happen in the future, but also they have got the potential to build cohesion and stability amongst coalition partners in the interest of the citizens.
Yeah. Rebone, again, what is this? Xhakaza, the strategist, as you call him, or is this likely going to have severe repercussions in other municipalities where the ANC governs with the EFF, as Ndou would like to believe?
You know, if you look at Ekurhuleni, and I like that we speak about the smaller parties, right, in this coalition. If the DA, for an example, in this last council meeting had voted with Dunga, right, and Action SA, they would have gotten 111 votes. And Xhakaza, with the small parties, he would have gotten 113 votes. And if you check, Dunga got how many votes? 31,
31.
right? The EFF has got only 31 councillors in Ekurhuleni. So he merely just got votes from his own party. That means Action SA did not come to the table. And that means also DD did not come to the table. So if we talk about implications, then we must go to all the municipalities and be factual of numbers. And because the Dunga seems to be, yes, wanting this thing of MMC and so forth, but he doesn't have the experience of council. Dunga was only elected as a councillor in 2021, so he's fairly new in council. In politics, I don't know much about his political background, but with Xhakaza, we can say that he comes from the ranks of the Youth League and grew into the ANC. So that means that he's got so much experience politically. And Dunga, who's just arrived, and Xhakaza has been in council for some time, and Dunga is only now that he's going to finish his first 5 years in council. So he still has a lot to learn about negotiation skills also, because for them just to have gotten that 31, that shows that he's not able to even engage Action SA to support him when they both decided they don't want to be part of this coalition of Xhakaza.
So you don't see this being an issue of stability in other municipalities where the ANC would require any EFF support?
I don't see. That's why I'm saying that we'll have to go municipality by municipality, because it can't be one size fits all. We need to look at, in terms of numbers, the ANC, if they can persuade the smaller parties, they might not need EFF in all these municipalities. You know, and if you have, for an example, the DA feels hurt in my analysis. If you remember 2021, what the EFF said, we're not going to vote with the ANC, we're going to punish the ANC, we're going to give our vote to the DA. And then, fine, the DA then led all the municipalities, Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, Tshwane. Then later, the EFF then came out again pushing for that motion of no vote of confidence, restructuring all the municipalities. That's why we're seeing the DA out of power. So automatically, the DA for them, the DA, actually, I spoke to some people in the DA, and they said, and these are not councillors from Ekurhuleni, but from another metro in Gauteng, who said to me, we're going to stay out of this. We don't want to get involved as the DA. We have taken that decision. We are preparing for elections. So the EFF might be isolated like we saw in Ekurhuleni. They were actually isolated.
Rebone Ndou there, and Dr. Lecy Ndou staying with us. Let's take a break. We'll continue and wrap up this conversation. The Ekurhuleni municipality, in terms of governance, but also politically, with the reshuffle that has taken place in the last 3 months, new appointments that have been put in place, a new speaker now installed. But we are also talking, of course, about the dynamics that are existing within that coalition that has been set up by Mayor Xhakaza. Here's our Junior Khumalo now takes a look at the Metro's state of affairs.
The Ekurhuleni Metro is facing a severe multifaceted crisis. On one hand, The Madlanga inquiry has exposed grave levels of corruption in its metro police, coupled with a seeming failure or lack of political will from the executive to intervene. On the other hand, the metro also appears to be suffering from a deep leadership crisis regarding the mayoral and speaker seats. Mayors Tanya Campbell, Sivuyile Ngodwana, and Nkosindiphile Xakaza have all been in office in the last 5 years. This volatile leadership period coincides with the time that the city's deputy police chief, Julius Mkhwanazi, and his team allegedly received protection despite facing numerous allegations of misconduct. IPID's acting National Investigations head complained at the Madlanga inquiry last month about the lack of political will at the metro to act despite the police watchdog's directive to discipline Mkhwanazi.
We thought it prudent to then visit the municipality, particularly to talk to the mayor and the MMC, because on the day in question, when we got there, although we intended to engage the mayor, we found that he was in the company of the MMC for safety in the municipality. But as we were discussing, it became clear that the mayor was saying to us, no, he won't be able to handle this matter. Instead, he would then give it to the MMC. And that raised a whole lot of frustration because during the discussion, one could get a sense that seemingly there is no one who's giving or inspiring confidence.
Despite the involvement of CAT VIP Protection, a private security firm, to guard the 2022 Ekurhuleni State of the City address, presided over by the DA's Campbell, having become a subject of controversy and investigation, the DA believes the city's countless challenges have their genesis in subsequent ANC leadership inadequacies since the dawn of democracy.
I think what has to be understood is that there is a criminal infrastructure in the city. It is syndicated. That cannot be dismantled in 18 months. It has taken years to get to the point we are at now, and that has been facilitated by the ANC, because politically and in administration, the ANC's policy of deployment has caused this problem and has enabled the problem on both sides of the executive and the administration.
Even the EFF concurs that turmoil within the ANC directly impacts the performance of the city.
We found ourselves in a situation where we're now in disarray. And part of the disarray, by the way, could be directly linked to the factional battles within the ANC itself, where they're now introducing their maladministration, where they're introducing their factional battles within the government structures. And we called it off even at the establishment of this government and this governance, and to say that do not bring your petty politics into the mainstream elements of governance, because that's when the people suffer the most.
Cracks within the ANC were there for all to see following a late-night unilateral cabinet reshuffle by Xakaza last month. This resulted in the party's regional secretary, Jongizizwe Dlabati, calling it quits, seemingly aggrieved by the regional chair's failure to consult with the ANC Ekurhuleni leadership before taking such a drastic step. There is speculation that Dlabati could join a growing list of ANC members jumping ship and joining former President Jacob Zuma's MK party. Xakaza's reshuffle left a vacancy in the speaker's seat, which was filled on Thursday by John Sinona from the African Transformation Movement, as parties with more seats refused to work with the ANC. This leaves the Metro in a precarious position, with questions being asked about whether it will be able to table its adjusted budget, which is already overdue. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Junior Kumalo in Ekurhuleni.
So with us, Rebone Ndou, as well as Dr. Ndou. Dr. Ndou, do you share the same sentiment as Rebone that the ANC will not have any challenge in Ekurhuleni to pass that adjustment budget?
Well, it will depend on the dynamics within the city. There is nothing that is a foregone conclusion when we are having a multi-party arrangement, because when you are at a moment where something or a major decision is to be taken, that is the period in which some coalition partners will start to table certain demands or expectations from those that are leading the council. So you wouldn't have. But I think what you would expect is that there could be a lot of discussions that should take place before a final decision is made, so that when they get into council, they move together knowing that they're going to move with the same line. But one thing is for sure, parties that are aggrieved, parties that feel isolated would not support the budget, not because the budget is wrong. They will only not support because they are aggrieved and they do not want to see the city moving forward. As an aggrieved partner, they should always find ways and means to express their views in a manner that makes a point or a statement to those that are in charge.
Let's close with this now, Rebone. I mean, the evidence that the Madlang Commission paints a picture, others say a mafia state, maybe we don't want to go that far, but at least it's state capture at a local level is what we've seen, where state apparatus would have been captured by a particular individual for their personal gain. A reshuffle of politicians, one would doubt that it would fix the challenges at the MPD.
No, absolutely. And, you know, I think also one of the things that one would want to mention, we've not asked who was the MMMC of community safety during that time of 2022. And no one is speaking about that MMMC. And by the way, that MMMC is a member of Action SA. He was the MMC of community safety. When all this happened, Action SA has not taken accountability for one of its own, while they critique the municipality in terms of not having practices of good governance and so forth. So it's very unfortunate that there are political parties that are getting away with that mess of Ket Matlala VIP protection unit. Now, the reality of the matter is that it's a, you know, I always say sometimes we tend to be harsh on politicians. Officials are the most corrupt people. Look at Mashazi. There's a video that was circulating of her. In one day, an outfit of 3.5 million, when the citizens of Ekurhuleni are struggling in terms of the services not being delivered on time. We must ask ourselves, how is this municipal manager or city manager is able to afford an outfit for a day for 3.5 million? So you have a system that Kakaza will have to deal with at this point.
Not in 8 months?
Not in 8 months, absolutely. It's impossible. It will take some time, maybe even 10 years, to undo the damage. But while we're looking at Ekurhuleni, I think Madlanga scope maybe must be opened to other metros as a starting point, to see what's really happening in the other metros, because I don't think what is happening in Ekurhuleni is not happening to other
You believe capture at local level runs even deeper into other municipalities? There's a question that has popped my mind to say, if we are seeing this happening in Ekurhuleni, what is happening in the other municipalities? Of course, that something maybe that awaits another commission of inquiry. Dr. Ndou, I mean, criminality in the EMPD is at least what we are talking about right now. Top officials, one would say those top officials would not have been so emboldened unless they knew that they had political protection. So is the move by Xhakaza also to protect particular politicians that could actually get a backlash from this revelation?
There has always been an element of criminality with the law enforcement agencies in South Africa broadly. If you look at the number of incidents where traffic officials will be collecting bribes from citizens in South Africa, they do that in a very alarming rate. Citizens of South Africa are aware that each time they face a roadblock, there is a huge possibility that criminal activities would happen. Of course, I want to support what Rebone is saying. That relates to wrongdoings in the municipalities, not only at Ekurhuleni. We should consider ourselves very fortunate that Madlanga Commission has been able to uproot wrongdoings in the city of Ekurhuleni. And if you just look it from a distance, you could tell that this appears to be something that has been going on for some time, something that appears to have been normalized by the people working in that area. Of course, there is a lot of talk about corruption that is being done by politicians, but there's a lot of wrongdoing that administrators do, and very little attention is being directed towards these activities. My sense is that our government or our leaders should also focus on other metros and municipalities and try to do something to root out corruption and wrongdoing, because this appears to be something that is normalized, something that people will do the aid very comfortably, knowing that something is going to happen. So my view is that indeed we need to put more efforts in ensuring that any form of wrongdoing is eliminated, is prevented, in order to ensure that the resources that are meant for ordinary citizens are actually directed towards assisting the communities.
Dr. Ndou, appreciate your time. Rebone down. Thank you for coming in, and that's where we'll leave that conversation. Of course, so what's making news next here on the Newsfeed PM when we continue next. Stay with us.